Welcome to the Rare Earth Exchanges podcast, where power, politics, and the world's most coveted materials collide. Rare earth elements power the backbone of tomorrow's most critical technologies. With China dominating global production, the U.S. and its allies must align strategically to ensure a stable future. This urgency prompted tech entrepreneurs Daniel O'Connor and Dustin Olson to launch Rare Earth Exchanges, a news and insight platform built to equip stakeholders and decision makers with the tools and intelligence needed to reduce dependency and build prosperous resilience. Let's get into it.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Rare Earth Exchanges podcast. I'm your host today, and I'm joined by Harvey Kaye, Executive Chairman of U.S. Critical Materials Corporation. And Harvey has been in this industry for 45 years or more and has seen an awful lot. And he has been a veteran of finance, strategy, and executive leadership, and has been before U.S. Congress trying to emphasize the need, the urgency for critical materials in our supply chains. Harvey, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you, and I appreciate you inviting me today. And as we've discussed, let me introduce myself, my company, and then perhaps a few words as to the geopolitical aspects of what's going on in the world of rare earths and, all the aspects as it relates to national defense, as it relates to innovation, as it relates to artificial intelligence, and in particular, national defense, which I'm sure are all areas, Daniel, that everybody's curious about. To that end, U.S. Critical Materials is a private company at the moment that is in the process of becoming a public entity, probably by fall of this year. We have 336 claims in a place called Sheep Creek, Montana, which covers 11 and a half square miles of what has now been independently validated as the richest deposit of rare earths ever found in North America. To give you an idea, Mountain Pass MP materials, they average about 4%, 5% total rare earth elements. USA Rare Earths is about 1%, and we are blessed with 9%, or about 90,000 parts per million of rare earths. And more importantly, we have the heavies being dysprosium, terbium, the gallium, scandium, and particularly gallium, which is a critical mineral. And so we have been developing that claim, and we are optimistic that we will be able to start extracting ore from the mountain by the end of this year and more aggressively by 2027. And last comment, and then I'll stop, is we believe that we are uniquely positioned to become an indispensable resource for the establishment of rare earth sovereignty for the United States and the free world because of a combination of things that we are involved in. One, of course, is the ore. The other is our processing activities. And the third is an integration strategy that I'd like you and I to discuss a little bit later. So, general introduction, there you go.
That's great, Harvey. It sounds like your current endeavors sound really promising. But before we unpack a lot of that, I would first like to get a bit of background on you specifically and your career. So 45 years ago, you got into rare earths and critical minerals. Was there anything at that time that drew you to this industry? Like what caught your eye?
Yeah, let me just be a little more specific. I have been involved with rare earths about 10 or 15 years.
Okay.
But prior to that, I have been the chairman, founder, and CEO of 3 public companies that were NASDAQ companies that were basically involved in environmental issues, whether it was agriculture or water technologies and the like. And I just want to give you and your audience a little bit of a concept and make some certain things very simple. If you think about it, without water, there is no agriculture. Without extraction from the earth, there is nothing. There's no oil, there's no energy, there's no advancement of society, including artificial intelligence. So if you look at the very basics of our civilization today. You look at agriculture, you look at water, and you look at extraction, because everything that has made our new civilization, what it is today, comes from things that are contained within the earth. And that goes, from energy to artificial intelligence to, semiconductors to chips to space. Nothing happens unless it comes from the earth and is extracted. So I realized through my involvement in environmental companies and my involvement in rare earths about 10 or 12 years ago as a director of a rare earth company that all of this is what makes the future for ourselves and our kids and our grandkids possible. To that end, we have looked at this industry, understanding the resource that Sheep Creek provides, and realize that one of the barriers for independence lies in Chinese dominance of processing. They control, as Daniel, I know you know, about 95% of the processing of rare earths in the world. That gives them enormous geopolitical clout, and it is what they've exploited in the Belt and Road that they have been doing for the last 10 or 15 years. We in the United States have been relatively complacent, primarily because they made it easy. They said 15 years ago that the Middle East has oil, but China has rare earths. And we just sort of went down the path of, if you're building a semiconductor company and you needed rare earths, you got a broker or you got somebody in China, you place an order and they shipped it to you. Little did we know that all these years later, it became, a weapon, if you will. And we talk tariffs, they say, we're not going to give you any gallium. We talk tariffs and they say, we're embargoing scandium. And so we have now realized as a country, and indeed the whole Western world, that the ability to become independent involves processing first, supply as an integral part of all that. And if you can have the supply, and there's a lot of places that have rare earths, and you can process them efficiently and environmentally, then it's a good thing, for foreign policy, for spreading democracy around the world. And it's a good thing, for national security purposes and all the rest. And it's just a good thing. And we have embraced that multi-level approach, to the industry.
Yeah. So Harvey, you've touched on quite a few things, and a lot of them we do share that same sentiment. There's urgency, things are happening. But I am curious though, over your career, and you've been in different industries, you've seen a lot of different things. Specifically, I'm sure you've seen the offshoring of talent, resources, manufacturing, and now we're over the last couple of years, especially, we've seen a big push to bring a lot of that back domestically, or at least we're seeing a global effort, just everyone trying to do it again on their own. However, while we are seeing a lot of government support, I'd be curious to know, is it enough? Is it enough of to the same level that they've done in the past that you've seen?
Daniel, I love your questions because it opens up, very interesting areas. And so let me comment on that in a generalized sense and then on a specific sense about what we're doing about it. Okay, in the generalized sense, the future depends upon the ability to innovate. And let's just start with AI. Okay, the secret to AI is obviously the most advanced chips. Okay, they can't or prefer not to use recycled materials for the next generation of chips. We happen to be fortunate in that we have a very robust deposit of gallium. Gallium is a critical mineral. It's got 3,800 military uses alone. To give you an idea, in this Iran conflict, they knocked out one of our prime radar installations that covers 3,000 miles of airspace that's necessary for our defense. You can't rebuild it unless you have gallium, unless you have certain other critical minerals and raw materials of that nature. Fortunately, we have 300 parts per million gallium, again, independently validated by Activation Labs, by Idaho National Labs, and by various other technical independent groups and laboratories that have been doing work for us as we increase our exploration work. To that end, okay, what we were importing from the Chinese were 50 parts per million. We have 300 parts per million. So we're focused on gallium, we're focused on the heavies, and our government is focused on that as well. They need that. It was antimony, now it's gallium. They need yttrium desperately. We have all of those elements. And so what we are doing is we adopted, Daniel, something called an integration strategy. And I think this is one of the more important aspects, and it will answer the question, which I didn't forget that you asked. Okay. And so the way the industry is today is everybody is standing on their own dot. I have a mine, I have a process, I have something in Australia, I have something in Brazil, and the government is trying very hard to put it all together in some kind of a organized manner, as opposed to it's very chaotic right now. To that end, they created something called the vault. And the vault was designed specifically to enable the country to start stockpiling these critical minerals, just like we've done, with the oil reserve. And so they need a rare earth reserve. And so with that, we have taken an approach that is, let's say, resource agnostic and process agnostic. And what that means is that ore is coming from other places that are friends and allies of this country, Brazil, Australia, places of that nature. They are currently producing product, but they are being forced to export it to China because China has the stranglehold on processing. And so that's where the bottleneck is. So our approach, in addition to our crown jewel, which is Sheep Creek and why all the attributes and all that, we have focused on processing. To that end, we have done what is called a CRADA, which stands for a Cooperative Research and Development Agreement with Idaho National Labs. You'll find this interesting. Okay, the approach is rock to dock, which is a trademark copyrighted term we sort of came up with. And the reason for that is everybody talks about mine to magnet. But what rock to dock means is a rock comes out of the earth. How do we process it in all the steps from micronization to comminution, to beneficiation, to refinement, to separation, so that you can produce a product, whether it's scandium or gallium, and the purity that industry needs. Generally, it's what they call to 3 or 4 nines. That means decimal points after 99%. And so working over the last year or so with Idaho National Labs, they have developed a technology that can do that. And they call it electrochemical membrane reactor. We call it rock to dock, okay, because it's a little more, you can visualize it better. Okay, and we have now proven the technology on a laboratory scale, and now we are working with the Army under executive orders that have said, let's build processing plants on Army bases. And we are moving forward with just that approach, and we're taking that technology and we are building a full-scale operating plant on an Army base, which I can't disclose yet. Okay. And that's one thing. But the second part to it is there are many processes around. Some are old, some are newer, but all of them are good on certain ores and they're not good on other ores. When I say we are ore agnostic, we have been approached over the year with multiple mines in various parts of the world, in particular Brazil and Australia and some other places like that. And they have said to us, we can produce ore, but we have to sell it to the Chinese. And nobody wants us to do that. Can you provide processing capability for our ore? And then could you help us market that ore, that finished product, to users, whether it be government or chip makers or magnet makers or the automotive industry or the defense industry? And in fact, we have done that. And so
So
while...
Harvey, real quick, I just have a question
Yep,
just to clarify.
please.
So your company is you have a mine. It's called Sheep Creek,
Yes.
and it's laden with the heavy rare earths, which is perfect. But you recognize that the bottleneck isn't so much the mine or the resources; it's the processing. So you guys do the mining and the processing, but you're not limiting yourself, the company, to just Sheep Creek. You're willing to bring in outside feedstock for your processing endeavors. Am I following that correct?
I wish I would have said it as clearly as you did. The answer is 100% yes.
Okay, great. So we've had Idaho National Live here on the show a few times, and we love those guys. So I am curious, are they, with what you're working on together, is anything at production scale, commercial scale yet? Because they do a lot of stuff, very small scale just to kind of prove the concept and then let it kind of filter out into the commercial space. So where are you guys at in getting commercial ready?
So we are working very, very closely with Dr. Robert Fox, who you probably know, and who is considered, the guy from the DOW or DOD and Department of Energy, DOE. They wanted to work closely with us because A, we're paying for it, but B, more importantly, our ore is very unique. It's what we would call a geological unicorn. And the reason, Daniel, we call it a geological unicorn is because it is very high in total rare earth elements, as we've talked about, but significantly, it is very, very low in thorium. As you know, most times rare earths are found in conjunction with thorium. If you have 500 parts per million or more, you have to go through nuclear regulatory authorities in order to go forward with the project. Okay, we average about 200 parts per million, and hence that's why they call Sheep Creek a geological unicorn. Very high grade, very low thorium, means speed to market, means Fox loved it because the economics of having the very high grades and, the fact that it's low thorium gave them the ability, to start really working on it very robustly. The direct answer to your question is it has been proven at bench scale, laboratory scale. We are now engaged in putting together a project at an Army base, okay, that would be about a $15 million project to build a full-scale operating model of the rock to dock or the electrochemical membrane reactor. It could then really start producing in more commercial quantities at the moment. But to magnify what you said a little bit earlier is that we have 5 other processing technologies that we have access to, and they are coming to us because they need the ore. They're looking hard for ore that has the heavies. So it gives us a little bit of a opportunity because even if they have a process, they need the right ore that's economic and, that they can work with. And so as that plays out, okay, we have now developed, and Daniel, this is kind of very unique, a very proprietary AI technology that is not large language model. It really would be perceptive AI. What it means is that it can read and understand things, and it can perceive and think it. It's not quite deep think yet, but it's close. And where that fits in is if we get ore from a mine in Brazil, which is a real case that we're working on right now, we can analyze that ore and we can determine of multiple processes, ours and 5 or 6 others, one in Texas, one in Saskatchewan, one here, one there, which process is the best to economically deal with that particular ore and its characteristics to process it. We also have the ability to deal with red mud. We made a press release about 6 weeks ago. We have formed a collaboration with Columbia University, who is now developed a proprietary technology for processing red mud in an environmental way. Red mud, you can get out gallium, you can get out scandium. We also have developed a relationship with SRI, which is Stanford Research Institute. We're working with University of Illinois, and we're working with Montana Tech, and we're also working with the Colorado School of Mining. So just to illustrate your point, and then I'll stop, is we're working to develop multiple processing technologies, our own and 4 or 5 others. We're supporting that research, and we'll then have the ability to analyze ore wherever it comes from, match it up with the best process to deal with it environmentally and economically. And then we have the capability in-house with people that we brought to the company that can sell and develop offtake agreements with industry. And I would say that we have multiple letters of intent, multiple memorandums of understanding with known chip makers, magnet people, defense people, and others. And so we really are focused on 2 things: making Sheep Creek, productive as soon as possible, following the appropriate permitting requirements. We are working with the National Permitting Council. We're working with the state. We're working with the U.S. Forest Service, and we've opened offices now in Montana, and we are working very hard to educate people that we are not doing open pit mining. We are not doing any of the scary things that people are concerned about, as are we, but rather we are working toward in situ mining, which is mine of the future. And we are actually able to extract ore from inside the mountain. What is unique about Sheep Creek is there are multiple what we call adits that have been built into the side of the mountain 35 years ago. Horizontal tunnels that go straight back 300-400 feet, and we can actually see a cross section of the mountain. There are 62 carbonatites that surround these 3 adits. Mountain Pass has 2, to give you an idea. And these are veins anywhere from 8 to 20 feet wide. And we've proven mineralization at depth. We've proven that those percentages that I described earlier go all the way down. And we believe that there is a continuous source that lies down maybe 1,500, 2,000 feet that could cover the entire 11 square miles. We have been doing the research and the work, the exploration work, to prove that. We have recently just completed electromagnetic survey that can see down 2,000 feet. We expect that we will be doing conformational drilling in July. And obviously, if there is a lake of rare earths that lies below 11 square miles, it's priceless. And, the
Harvey,
evidence.
so
Yeah.
Sounds like Sheep Creek is awesome. So for our audience who's listening, there's different stages that a mine has to go through.
Yes,
And it sounds like you guys are in the construction phase or getting ready to get into construction as you're doing some testing just to see what's in the ground, what you can actually extract, right? And then we move into production after that. What does the timeline look like for US critical materials to getting from the stage you're currently in into production? How far away are we from there?
I love the questions you ask. Where we are is we are in, advanced stages of the exploration part. We anticipate conformational drilling in July, August to confirm what we have just seen with this mapping 2,000 feet down, which was very promising. We are following a mining plan that is giving us the ability to extract about 1,500 tons over the course of 26, this year, 2026. That will be then used for the various customers that we have to be able to deliver those samples that they can do their own testing, chip makers and, wafer makers and, some defense people and so on and so forth. We are on Fast 41. And just to dispel any rumors, fast does not mean shortcuts. It does not mean avoiding environmental studies, and some people just think that you're trying to do, a quickie, but you follow all the right things. It just expedites, government bureaucracy so that it's efficient. We have filed
Absolutely.
a full mining plan, and we have engaged all the appropriate contractors in order to accomplish that. And we actually intend to have in 2027 an extraction of commercial quantity of ore that we could start supplying people that really are desperate for yttrium, for dysprosium and gallium. But concurrently with that, Dan, we have the other resources available to us that we can supply yttrium. For example, we have committed offtake agreements for a substantial amount of yttrium. Okay, we can produce yttrium not only from Sheep Creek, but also from other sources, Brazil in particular. Okay, so, we're combining both the domestic resource, Sheep Creek, and other sources, as you so better than me described it, to be able to bring to market in 27 products that are desperately needed for national defense and independence.
That's great. So, kind of follow-up question. So it sounds like over the next year and a half, we'll be starting to see some commercial scale output from Sheep Creek. Now, you're also in tandem working on some processing technologies, and
Yes.
you're adopting existing methods as well as working with INL to come up with new or more efficient methods. And so what's the timeline look for that? Is it on track to keep up with what you're going to get out of Sheep Creek so you can immediately process it? Or are you going to be turning around and sending it somewhere else for it to be processed because your processing element of the business is lagging behind?
Well, the first place I will tell you is we're not sending it to China. That's sort of
Perfect.
a joke. But the second part to that is that we have identified some processes that we have delivered ore to that have demonstrated their ability to bring out gallium, scandium, and certain of these other elements that are required in that timeline that you've pointed out. We have also working along those lines with the people at Columbia University. They have been doing substantial work on our ore, and they're running two tracks. They're running the red mud track, and they're running ore from Sheep Creek track. And we will be delivering concentrate to a potential very large user that is in Asia and that is building processing capability in the United States. So we are, in fact, literally at the point where we are starting to deliver samples from Brazil, from our own place, and from others, to potential processors, both domestically and one of which is offshore. And so the premise of your question is 2027, we expect that we will start delivering product.
That's great. So I would be curious to get some of your opinions here really quick. Is you're doing a lot. You understand the need for domestic mining, processing, just for everything we just said at the beginning of the show, national security, energy, defense, you name it. What is the message you're sharing with the government today to help them truly understand that urgency? And are you seeing them, I guess, take action? Actions speak louder than words. Are you getting hope with the current political climate?
I think that the political climate is excellent for what we are trying to accomplish. The reason I say that, and I'll be succinct, is our government started to understand the problem in the previous administration, definitely understands the problem at this current administration, and this of rare earth independence or sovereignty is now no longer a political issue at all. Maybe it's one of the few, because everybody realizes that you must have this or you have the Chinese knee on our neck, just to be dramatic. And so the government has an approach. They understand what is being required. They understand the priority that they need things, and they're working very diligently to make it happen. The issues are the usual issues of coordination, communication, and making sure that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing, etc. That is an area that we are having substantial conversations with the government about, because our ability to coordinate from various sources and be able to process with various techniques. What we are trying to do, Daniel, is everybody right now in the industry is standing on their own dock. I have a mine, I have a process, I have this, I have that, but there's no interrelationship, there's no communication. What we are trying to do using technology and our understanding of the industry and our relationships that are kind of, not just limited to the United States. Our CEO, Scott Osterman, is the former Secretary of Commerce of the state of Montana. Prior to that, he was running Applied Materials west of the Rockies for many, many years. Scott is an international guy, and that we are getting calls literally from resources as diversified as Sri Lanka or Burundi or Canada or Honduras, and they're saying, we have this, can you process it, can you get us to customer. So we are trying to be the integrator using our AI technologies, our relationships with multiple processors, including our own, and our ability to reach out to industry and the government to say, and we're going from the need side down, as opposed, I got a product, I wonder who needs it. So if we know that we need a particular product to build the F-47, for example, the next generation of fighter, or a radar that was just blown out in a war, or whatever you want to call it, to be politically correct, okay, then we understand the need. We look at the universe of how we could fill that need, and we will aim directly to get the right supply, the right purity, and deliver it to the customer in a timely basis. So we're tying together the supply chain, the resource, the ability to process it, and we just kind of call that the integration strategy.
That's great. And definitely here at Rare Earth Exchanges, our audience, we get a lot of investors, retail investors, institutional investors. And they're coming and they're looking, and I think this conversation will help eliminate options that are out there for them who want to be interested, who want to be involved in accelerating the efforts very much of what you're doing with your company to independent, self-reliant as a nation to bring a lot of that stuff on shore. And I think that's great. And to your point, you said that, a lot of people, a lot of players in the industry are sitting on their own dot. They're in their own silo. There's not a whole lot of connection going on. And we recognize that here at Rare Earth Exchanges as well. And we're trying to build a marketplace where we bring people together, let people know what's out there and what's available. So I think we're very much aligned with that same thought process, that same sentiment that the resources are probably here. We're still trying to figure out who's in the room.
Exactly.
So
That is so well said. Daniel, I may attribute to you if I use your words, you know, but that is, we've tried, we want to be the connective tissue between
absolutely.
all of the mines, all of the processors, all of the supply users. And, your words are even better, but we have to do this. And even though, as we said in Congress, that everybody's kind of a friendly competitor, at the end of the day, we're all patriots. I know that sounds a little hokey, but it's true. And many of the people that are involved with us have come from government, have come from the defense industry, and they are passionate in trying to make sure that this country stands, on its own 2 feet and can help the rest of the world be independent. And we want to be a part of that.
Well said. And we want to be part of it too. So Harvey, we appreciate you being here on the show. I think it's been a great conversation. For those that would be interested in reaching out to be more involved with the work that you are doing, where is a great place we can send them?
Anybody that's interested, we'd be delighted to talk with them. We are about to do a mezzanine financing with our bankers as preparation for this public deal that we're putting together right now. And we'd be delighted to talk to those that understand the need, understand what we think is a rather unique approach that we're taking, and would like to be involved. So we would welcome any interest that may come forth, and we thank you for that.
Awesome. Well, Harvey, we'll be in touch.
Well, thank you so much.